Some people fall in love after spending years getting to know someone. Daniel fell in love before he even understood what love really was. It happened in a small town in Ohio, back in 2015. Daniel was in 7th grade, 12 years old, with messy brown hair and a habit of staring out of windows during class. His cousin Emma was 3 years older. She was in 10th grade, tall for her age, with a calm voice and a laugh that seemed to fill an entire room. Their families were close, so they saw each other often at Thanksgiving dinners, summer barbecues, and birthday parties that never seemed to end. The first time Daniel noticed something different about the way he felt around Emma, he was standing near the kitchen table at his grandmother's house. The smell of roasted turkey filled the air. Emma walked in, laughing at something her mother had said, and Daniel felt his chest tighten in a strange, unfamiliar way. "Hey, little cousin," Emma said, ruffling his hair the way older cousins often do. "Still afraid of thunderstorms?" Daniel blushed. "No," he lied. "That was years ago." Emma smiled and walked past him to help set the table. Daniel stood there for a moment, unsure why his heart was beating faster than usual. He didn't understand it yet. He was too young to give it a name. He only knew that whenever Emma was in the room, everything felt a little brighter. He never told anyone about it. Not his parents, not his friends, not even his older sister, Lily. It was a secret he kept quietly, tucked away like a photograph in the back of a drawer. But even though he said nothing, the feeling didn't fade. If anything, it grew stronger with every passing year. That night, after everyone had gone home, Daniel lay awake in his bed, staring at the ceiling. He tried to make sense of the strange feeling in his chest. He was only 12. He didn't have the words for what he was experiencing, so he did what most children do. He pushed it aside and told himself it was nothing important. But deep down, a small part of him already knew it wasn't nothing. Family gatherings were no longer just family gatherings for Daniel. They became something more important, the only chance he had to see Emma, even if it was just for a few minutes between conversations with aunts and uncles. He would count the days until the next holiday, the next reunion, the next excuse for the family to come together. He kept a small mental calendar in his head. Thanksgiving in November, Christmas in December, his grandmother's birthday in March, the 4th of July picnic in summer. Each one meant a chance to see Emma again. At school, his friends would talk about the girls in their own classes, the ones they thought were pretty or funny or interesting. Daniel would listen and nod along, but he never mentioned Emma. It felt different somehow, not like a normal school crush. It felt private, almost sacred, like something too important to share carelessly. "You're quiet today," his friend Marcus said once, during lunch in 8th grade. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," Daniel said, poking at his food. "Just thinking about the weekend. We have a family thing." "You always seem happy before those family things," Marcus said, laughing. "Must be some good food." Daniel smiled, but didn't correct him. It wasn't the food he was looking forward to. It was the chance, however small, to sit near Emma and listen to her talk about her week. When Emma turned 16, she got her driver's license. She started coming to family events on her own, sometimes arriving late because of school projects or volleyball practice. Daniel would always notice the sound of her car pulling into the driveway before anyone else did. "You have good ears," his mother once joked. "You always know when someone's here before the doorbell even rings." Daniel just smiled and said nothing. As the years passed, Daniel grew taller. His voice changed, and he moved from middle school to high school. Emma, meanwhile, graduated and got accepted into a pre-med program at a university 2 states away. She wanted to become a doctor, just like her father. Daniel remembered the day she told the family the news. Everyone clapped and cheered, raising their glasses of lemonade in celebration. Daniel clapped too, but a small part of him felt sad. Emma was moving further away, and he wondered if she would forget about the family gatherings, and about him. He remembered watching her from across the yard that day, surrounded by relatives who wanted to congratulate her. She looked so confident, so sure of the future waiting for her. Daniel, still just a freshman in high school, felt very young in comparison. He wondered if someone like her would ever really notice someone like him. But she didn't forget. She still came home during holidays, and whenever she did, Daniel made sure to be there. He started noticing small details about her. The way she always ordered coffee instead of soda now, the university sweatshirt she wore proudly, the medical textbooks she sometimes brought along and read during quiet moments at family gatherings. She was changing, growing into someone new, and Daniel found himself wanting to know that new version of her just as much as he had once admired the girl from his childhood. High school passed by in a blur of exams, part-time jobs, and long bus rides. Daniel joined the school's debate team, mostly because he thought it might help him become more confident, more articulate, more like the kind of person Emma might find interesting to talk to. He never admitted that reason to anyone, not even to himself, not completely. He simply told his parents he wanted to improve his public speaking. If you are enjoying this story so far, please like this video and subscribe for more emotional English stories. Now, let's continue. By the time Daniel finished high school and was preparing to start college, something had changed between them. He was older now, more confident, and he finally found the courage to talk to Emma the way he had always wanted to, not just as a shy younger cousin, but as someone who genuinely wanted to know her. It happened on a warm evening in June, right after his high school graduation party. Most of the guests had already left, and only a few family members remained in the backyard, sitting under string lights that hung between 2 old oak trees. Emma was scrolling through her phone, sitting alone on the porch steps. Daniel walked over and sat beside her, his heart pounding. "Congratulations again," Emma said, looking up. "Class of 2021, huh? Time really flies." "Thanks," Daniel replied. He took a deep breath. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. How's medical school going? Is it as hard as everyone says?" Emma laughed softly. "Harder. But I love it, most days anyway." They talked for almost an hour that night, about her classes, about his plans for college, about the kind of doctor she wanted to become someday. For the first time, Daniel felt like he wasn't just her little cousin. He felt like her friend. To his surprise, after that night, talking to Emma became easy. They started texting regularly. At first, it was simple things, a funny meme, a question about a family member, a good luck on your exam message, but slowly, their conversations became longer and more personal. They talked about their days, their stress, their small victories and failures. Sometimes, they even talked on the phone late at night, when the rest of the world was asleep. Whenever Emma had to give a presentation or a speech at her university, she would send Daniel the video afterward. "Tell me honestly," she would write, "did I talk too fast again?" Daniel would watch the video carefully, sometimes more than once, and reply with something encouraging. "You did great, confident and clear." Maybe slow down just a little at the beginning. These were small things. A short video, a text message, a phone call that lasted 20 minutes. But to Daniel, they meant everything. They made him feel like he had a real place in Emma's life. Not just as a cousin she saw twice a year, but as someone she trusted, someone she wanted to share things with. Sometimes their conversations lasted late into the night, long past the point when either of them should have been asleep. Emma would talk about the pressure of medical school, the fear of failing an exam, the exhaustion of studying for hours without a break. Daniel would listen, asking questions, offering small pieces of encouragement whenever he could. "Do you ever think about quitting?" he asked her once, during a late-night call. "Every single week," Emma admitted, laughing tiredly. "But then I remember why I started. I want to help people. That thought gets me through the hard days." "You're going to be an amazing doctor," Daniel told her. "I mean that." "Thanks, Danny," she said softly, using the nickname she had called him since childhood. "That actually means a lot, coming from you." Moments like these stayed with Daniel long after the calls ended. He would replay them in his mind while walking to class, while lying in bed, while sitting in the back of his college lecture halls, only half listening to his professors. Emma had become the center of a private world he carried with him everywhere, a world no one else knew existed. For almost a year, Daniel was genuinely happy. He would wake up hoping for a message from Emma, and more often than not, there would be one waiting for him. He started college that fall, majoring in business, and even during the busiest weeks of exams and assignments, he always made time to reply to her. His roommate Josh sometimes teased him about how often he checked his phone. "Who is she?" Josh asked one evening, noticing Daniel smiling at his screen for the third time that hour. "Nobody," Daniel said quickly, setting the phone face down on his desk. "Just family stuff." Josh raised an eyebrow but didn't push further. Daniel wasn't ready to explain something he barely understood himself. Then, slowly, without any clear reason, everything began to change. At first, Daniel barely noticed it. Emma's replies became a little shorter. A conversation that used to stretch into paragraphs became a single sentence, where she once wrote, "Today was exhausting. We had a 12-hour shift at the hospital, and I barely had time to eat, but I saw something amazing in the ER." She now simply wrote, "Busy day." Daniel told himself it was nothing. Medical school was demanding. Of course she was tired. Of course she had less time to talk. He tried to be understanding, but the distance kept growing. "Hey, how are you?" he would text. "Fine," she would reply, sometimes hours later. The girl who used to send him videos of her presentations stopped sending them altogether. The girl who used to call just to talk about her day now barely responded to his messages. Daniel found himself staring at his phone, rereading old conversations, trying to figure out what had gone wrong. He wondered if he had said something to upset her. He went back through their messages, searching for a moment, a sentence, anything that might explain the sudden silence. He found nothing. Their last real conversation had been about her upcoming exams and his part-time job at a coffee shop near campus. Nothing seemed unusual, and yet, something had clearly shifted. Daniel didn't confront her directly. He was too afraid of what she might say, or worse, too afraid of getting no answer at all. So he waited, hoping things would go back to the way they were. They didn't. At the next family gathering, A small Christmas dinner at his aunt's house. Daniel hoped things might feel normal again in person, even if they had grown strange over text. But Emma arrived late, stayed near her parents most of the evening, and left early, saying she had an early shift at the hospital the next morning. She gave Daniel a quick hug and a polite smile, the kind she might give any distant relative. "It was good seeing you," she said, already reaching for her coat. "Yeah," Daniel replied, forcing a smile of his own. "You too." He watched her walk out the front door, and something inside him sank. The warmth that used to exist between them, the easy comfort, seemed to have quietly disappeared, replaced by something polite and distant and painfully unfamiliar. Months passed like this, Daniel sending messages that received short, distant replies, and Emma slowly fading from the daily presence she once was in his life. He completed his first year of college, moved into a new apartment with 2 roommates, and tried to distract himself with classes, friends, and part-time work. But no matter how busy he stayed, a part of him kept waiting for things with Emma to return to normal. He talked to Josh about it once, without mentioning Emma's name directly. "There's this person," he said carefully. "We used to talk all the time. Now it feels like I'm bothering them every time I send a message." Josh thought about it for a moment. Maybe they're just busy, or maybe things changed, and they don't know how to tell you. Either way, man, you can't force someone to want to talk to you. Daniel nodded, though the advice offered little comfort. He wasn't ready to accept that possibility, not yet. Finally, one evening in late spring, Daniel sat down with his sister, Lily, in the kitchen of their parents' house. Lily was 2 years older than him and had always been close to Emma as well, though not quite as close as Daniel secretly wished he had been. "Can I tell you something?" Daniel asked, his voice quieter than usual. "You have to promise not to laugh." Lily set down her cup of coffee. "I promise. What's going on?" Daniel hesitated. His hands felt cold, even though the kitchen was warm. "I think I've had feelings for Emma, for a long time. Since we were kids, honestly." Lily's eyes widened slightly, but she didn't laugh. "Emma? Our cousin Emma?" "I know how it sounds," Daniel said quickly, "but it's not like that. We're not that close by blood. Her mom and our dad are cousins, not siblings. It's not as strange as it might seem at first." Lily nodded slowly, thinking it over. "Okay, I believe you. But why are you telling me this now?" "Because things have changed between us," Daniel admitted. "We used to talk every day. Now she barely responds. I don't know what I did wrong, and I don't have the courage to ask her myself." He paused, looking down at the kitchen table. "Could you talk to her for me? Just to find out how she feels? I need to know if I'm imagining all of this, or if there was ever really something there." Lily studied her brother's face for a long moment. She could see how much this mattered to him. "Are you sure you want to know? Sometimes it's easier not knowing." "I'm sure," Daniel said, even though his voice trembled slightly. "I need an answer, even if it's not the one I'm hoping for." A few days later, Lily called Emma. Daniel wasn't part of that conversation, but Lily promised to tell him everything afterward, word for word. That evening, Lily came to Daniel's apartment. She looked tired, the way people look when they have to deliver news they wish they didn't have to share. "I talked to her," Lily said, sitting down across from him. Daniel's heart raced. "And?" Lily took a breath before answering. She said, "Everyone has their own choice. I don't have feelings for him that way. And even if I did, my father would never approve of it." The words hit Daniel harder than he expected. He had prepared himself for disappointment, but hearing it so plainly, so clearly, felt like something breaking quietly inside his chest. "Did she say why?" Daniel asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Was it because of what happened between us? Did I do something?" Lily shook her head gently. She didn't say anything else. "I'm sorry, Daniel." Daniel nodded, staring at the floor. He didn't cry, not right away. He simply sat there, replaying every memory. The family gatherings, the texts, the videos, the late-night phone calls, trying to understand where the story had gone wrong. Maybe Emma had never felt the way he did. Maybe he had mistaken her kindness, her warmth, her easy friendship for something it was never meant to be. Or maybe, as painful as it was to accept, some stories were simply never meant to have the ending he had hoped for. In the weeks that followed, Daniel tried to move forward. He didn't send any more messages. He didn't ask any more questions. He focused on his classes, his job, and his friends, slowly filling the space that Emma's absence had left behind. He deleted their old text conversations one evening, scrolling through years of messages before finally pressing delete. It felt like closing a book he had read too many times, one whose ending he already knew by heart but still hoped, somehow, might change. His mother noticed the difference in him that summer. "You seem different lately," she said one evening while they were washing dishes together. "Quieter." "Just growing up, I guess," Daniel replied, keeping his eyes on the plate in his hands. His mother studied him for a moment, the way mothers often do when they sense something unspoken. "You know you can talk to me, right? About anything." "I know," Daniel said. "I'm okay, Mom. Really." He wasn't entirely sure that was true, but he wanted it to be, and some days that was enough to keep going. Slowly, over the following months, Daniel found his footing again. He threw himself into his coursework, earned a spot in a business internship over the summer, and started spending more time with friends who didn't know anything about Emma or the quiet ache she had left behind. He learned, gradually, that it was possible to carry sadness and still move forward at the same time, that healing didn't mean forgetting, only learning how to live alongside the memory instead of being ruled by it. It has been almost 4 years since that conversation. Daniel is 22 now, about to graduate from college. Emma finished medical school and started her residency at a hospital in another state. They don't talk anymore. Daniel doesn't message her, and she doesn't message him. At family gatherings, they exchange polite greetings and small talk, the way distant relatives often do. Somewhere along the way, without either of them deciding it should happen, they became strangers again. Last Thanksgiving, they found themselves standing near the same dessert table, both reaching for a slice of pie at the same time. "Sorry, go ahead," Emma said, stepping back. "No, it's fine. You go," Daniel replied. They both laughed awkwardly at the small, meaningless moment, and for a few seconds, something familiar flickered between them. Not quite what it used to be, but not entirely gone either. Then someone called Emma's name from across the room, and she excused herself, disappearing back into the crowd of relatives. Daniel stood there for a moment, slice of pie in hand, watching her go. Even so, Daniel knows that Emma will always be the first girl he truly loved, not because she stayed in his life, but because she taught him what it feels like to care deeply about someone without expecting anything in return. She taught him that love doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it grows quietly, in the background of ordinary moments. a shared laugh at a family dinner, a video sent after a nervous presentation, a late-night phone call about nothing important at all. She also taught him something harder to accept, that the quietest heartbreaks often leave the deepest scars. There were no arguments, no dramatic goodbyes, no final conversation where everything was explained, just a slow, gentle fading, like a song that gets quieter and quieter until it can no longer be heard at all. Daniel never hated her. He never blamed her for not feeling the same way. He only wished, sometimes, late at night when the apartment was quiet and his thoughts wandered back to those years, that their story had ended a little more gently, with a real conversation perhaps, or at least an honest goodbye. But life doesn't always give people the endings they wish for. Sometimes it simply asks them to keep going, carrying the memory of what once was, and learning to be at peace with it. And Daniel, slowly, is learning to do exactly that. If you liked this story, please like, comment, and share. More simple and emotional stories are coming soon.